Well, let's talk about the political evolution of America's most popular and influential podcast host, Joe Rogan. Rogan once called himself a bleeding heart liberal. He recently said, though, that President Biden is mentally gone and slammed his administration for being underqualified and overly populated with diversity hires. Rogan has said he would not vote for Trump before, but now if it's Biden versus Trump in 2024, the choice is pretty clear.
I would vote for Trump before I'd vote for Biden, just because I think with Biden, like he's gone. Like, you know, he's gone. You're going to be relying on his cabinet, and I knew his cabinet would be this sideshow of diversity, and which is exactly what it is.
Now, Rogan continued his scathing review of the administration, referencing Sam Brinton, the former Energy Department official who identifies as non-binary, who is also facing multiple felony charges right now for stealing women's luggage.
You just said, oh, look at this. A man who dresses like a woman and has a beard and a mustache, but also wears lipstick. This is perfect for us. I don't give a what this guy's good at or bad at. I don't give a what their credentials are. This makes us look like we're inclusive. This makes us look like we're on the right side. So let's hire this person. And
now, if you've been following along at home, and I know many of you are, Rogan has previously announced his support for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis as his preferred presidential candidate in 2024. So here we are.
Here we are. And, you know, another interesting tidbit. Yesterday, President Biden was at an event, and obviously he was giving some evidence to maybe Rogan's, comments here. He's speaking to the International Association of Firefighters in Washington. But take a listen to the comments he makes when he talks about treatment he received for not one, but two brain aneurysms.
And I had these terrible headaches, was diagnosed with having anyway, they had to take the top of my head off a couple times, see if I had a brain.
To take his head off a couple.
Does that line up with Rogan saying he's gone?
Well, let's welcome in political analyst Mark Halperin to talk more about this. Also with us, Kelly Sadler, commentary editor at the Washington Times. Great to have you both here.
Good to see you both.
All right, so let's talk first about the Joe Rogan comments, Mark. Biden's policies, I should say, when we look at President Trump and this kind of evolution of Joe Rogan, first he's a bleeding heart liberal. Then he's like, okay, maybe Ron DeSantis because he's not Donald Trump. He seems a little bit more, toned down than Donald Trump. And then, okay, I would vote for Donald Trump if it's him versus Joe Biden. I've actually had this conversation with several people in my orbit. Have you heard a similar conversation with people in your focus groups?
Sure, absolutely. Look, Joe Rogan and Howard Stern are just two Americans, but I tend to pay attention to what they say because they both have a great fingertip feel for a certain segment of the American population, and their voices matter a lot. They're influential, but again, I listen to them because they often will tell you which way the wind is blowing.
Kelly, do you think so as well? I mean, we know that CPAC, Trump had that big speech last night. Well, this was just his base, but it seems like if we can get a bleeding heart liberal like Joe Rogan to convince his followers, there's others who will follow along.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is all these bleeding heart liberals that seem to have been red-pilled. I mean, if you look at Elon Musk, for example, Glenn Greenwald, and now you have Joe Rogan, who see the overreach of government under the Biden administration and want to push back against it. We weren't for these forever wars, and it seems like all of the Democrats are all in supporting Ukraine with no strings attached for as long as it takes. And that's something traditionally these progressives were against, and they're consistent with their beliefs, right? They're First Amendment absolutists. They want free speech. They're against censorship, and they've seen what this administration, the Biden administration, work hand in glove with big tech to censor conservative thought. So I think it's a great evolution, and I welcome everyone into the fray to see what's actually going on in the Biden administration and push back.
Yeah, we want to, Mark, maybe react to this. Jill Biden was asked by that CNN reporter, what does she think of Nikki Haley's proposal for competency, dovetailing off of Rogan saying this guy's gone. She really tried to brush it off. Let's play it again for the folks at home.
Nikki Haley, one of the Republican candidates, is calling for mental competency tests for those politicians over the age of 75. What do you think about that?
Ridiculous.
Would your husband ever take one of those?
I mean, we haven't even discussed, we would never even discuss something like that.
I mean, I guess if your husband, the leader of the United States, jokes about having the top of his head taken off, you desensitized? What is it? She's above being vetted?
It's one of the biggest stories of the Biden administration, the way they skate around these questions. Joe Biden said the other day that his age is a legitimate issue, and yet the White House doesn't make his doctor available for questioning from medical experts about the state of his capacity. So I do my best to say this isn't a gotcha thing. This isn't a mean-spirited thing. But a president his age who demonstrates, as he does in public, what he demonstrates in terms of losing a step or two or three, there needs to be more accountability before he stands for re-election. And yet, as you see there from the First Lady, she's part of this very cleverly calibrated effort to keep there from being the kind of accountability there would need to be for someone not just of his age, but of his obvious decline.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, to look at the First Lady's body language. Her eyes roll back in her head. She seems aghast that question was even asked. Maybe that it was asked by CNN, perhaps. She
thought this was a safe space.
Maybe a safe space, the First Lady thought. All right, we got to wrap it up there. But Kelly and Mark, great to see you both. Thank you.
Maybe she should go on Joe Rogan. That would be an interview. Thanks, guys.